Well, hello, ladies, and, well, actually, maybe one lady, and primarily gentlemen. It is currently January 28th, 2010. This is Day 9 Daily number 58. Don't mind if your audio is a little bit out of sync, because to be frank, apparently, according to my live stream, there are 14% of you who are out of sync with the audio, so hopefully you'll catch right back up again. So I'm very excited today because I had a quote-unquote something special in store, because yesterday I was just like, oh my god, guys, I'm going to give you something special. I was going to leave it as a surprise. I didn't, update, the thread on what it was going to be. Because I actually found my old replays. I found, because I had to reformat my computer not long ago, and I probably do that, once every year anyways. And I knew I was massing up my replays somewhere, but I, couldn't find them, and I found it yesterday, and I was like, oh my god. So I found this totally sweet replay. I spent an hour looking for it, and I found it, and I was like, yes, and I dragged it over. I was going to get ready to watch it. And then 20 minutes ago, I opened it up, because I hadn't actually checked. I just opened it up in Brood War chart. And when I opened it up, it was bugged to all hell. My drones didn't even split. I made my first drones, and they just sat there. Guys started mining away, and I was just like, ah! I didn't want to be all right, guys, now nothing's happening. But just imagine me being totally kick-ass. I figured that'd be boring for a 45-minute game. Therefore, I had to think of something equally kick-ass and equally as surprise-worthy as that. And of course, I found it, right? So we're going to go ahead and watch Nalra vs. Upmagic, which is a pretty epic game on this map Nemesis that I think is awful. I shouldn't explain. Let's just go right over and just check it out. So, all right, let's go to the main screen and check out this map Nemesis. It's pretty old. This is one of the old Pro League maps. This is Eastro playing against KTF when Nalra was in KTF playing. Now he's a commentator. So here are the start positions. They're kind of close to the middle, right? Here, 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 and here. There's 4 of them. And you'll notice you have a little itty-bitty tiny choke right here. And you also have an expansion right behind you. So this expansion behind is pretty easy to defend. Your main mineral line is pretty difficult to defend, just because there's so much distance between, the edge of the wall and here. And, on most maps, what you do is, you build some turrets up here, build some turrets there, and you'd be okay as Terran. But, there's enough squeeze room down here that you can kind of get away with doing some extra harassment back there. So, I want to talk about Protoss on this map, because this cracks me up, right? There were almost all Protosses on this, or Protoss players sent out on this map. So, for instance, here's the game statistics on it. Look right here. There were 24 Protoss vs. Protosses on here, and only 5 Terran vs. Terran and 5 Zerg vs. Zerg. But what's weird is that in the Zerg vs. Protoss games, there's only 6 Protoss players who won out of the 19 games that were played. And Protoss is losing against Terran here. And that's what really weirded me out about this map, is the fact that so many Protosses were actually being sent out on it. What Protosses almost certainly love about this map is this expo back here. Against Zerg, they can take the expansion and only have gateway units to defend the ramp. Ordinarily, when you're playing against a Zerg player, you would need to get the forge, you need to put cannons at your ramp. But here, we just are, let me try it again. You need a forge so you can build cannons at your choke, not necessarily at your ramp. For something like on Tornado or Python or Destination, you build cannons right at your expansion, and that's how you defend it, because it's normally this big, wide open space. But on Nemesis, it's not the case. You can get away with making a gateway, just rallying some zealots there, and then expanding back here. And you love doing this as Protoss, because you can get your cybernetics core out super, super quickly against Zerg. You also are making zealots that you're probably going to go ahead and use anyways, right? You're not just getting these sort of extraneous defensive units that aren't going to do anything. In the way that, cannons, in a sense, you want to avoid as many of them as possible when you're early expanding anyway. So Protoss players love the fact that against Zerg they can do that. Same logic with this back expansion. Protoss players are going to love it against Terran, because they have this little, thin, tiny ramp. They can early expand back here and just have a Zealot and some Dragoons to defend any sort of early rush or early push there. And they're in Happy Town, USA. But what sucks about this is, where the hell's Protoss going to take a third? Especially against Zerg. I suppose you could take this one, but it's pretty kind of far out there, and in particular, just getting down your ramp is a nightmare. Look, lurkers here? Oh yeah, lurkers right there. Protoss never, ever, 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 ever breaks it. Same way when you're playing against Terran. A lot of Terrans would just rush here, contain, and win immediately, right? You kind of need to get another main at some point as Protoss, and you don't quite get the opportunity to do that. Terran likewise has some issues with getting some expansions up early on. Personally, if I were playing this map nowadays, what I would do as Protoss is go for early Corsair Reaver so I could take this island, and then that would even make taking this expo much, 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 much easier. And obviously you still have your little thin, tiny, itty-bitty ramp so you can defend for any sort of push. Yeah, so Terran on this map, Upmagic is going to do nothing of what I talk about, but, you know, we can think of some early pushes to contain. We can think of some early pushes to just win. Because, I mean, Jesus, look at these rush distances. Look how short that is. Holy crap. Who designed this map? I mean, honestly. I mean, these expansions are just, like, impossible to hold. I mean, they're not really close to anything. So, I mean, as Terran, you'd kind of need to push out to, like, here in order to take this. So, basically, it means that if I'm Terran and my Protoss is here, that's, like, the only circumstance in which I'm comfortable taking this base. I mean, if I'm pushing this way, this is still pretty hard to take. So, I really shouldn't spend too much time describing what are possibilities on this map, because what we're going to see is Upmagic go Medic Marine against Protoss. Oh, totally kick-ass. So here's some old players, like they're cheering for Aqua and Garimto and Yellow, you know, these players who you haven't heard in centuries. This is the ace match of KTF versus Istro. I think they were even doing 2v2s nowadays. They eventually have taken that out because, you know, it really sucks to be a player who's committed to be the 2v2 player on your team, which means you're never, ever, ever going to qualify for an individual league because you kind of have to be the 2v2 crutch for your team. Yeah, so they eventually got rid of that. Plus 1v1s are way sweeter. And the usual sort of wall-in action. So let's actually pause for a moment. Now that we've discussed the fact that we are going to see some Medic Marine go on here, we've already seen a wall-off coming. Now, what would you do if you're going Medic Marine on this map? I mean, you'd probably have to be aggressive really early on. In my eyes, what's great about Medic Marine is that the push timing makes it real difficult for Protoss to have a secure third. And, you know, I always like exploring these unorthodox games, because anytime you look at this sort of situation, you really need to stop and think how to make it work. What would make Medic Marine against Protoss good? How do you play that properly? And what you need to do is you need to think not in terms of what's common and not common. Just think in terms of what's good and bad about this or that. Oh, almost trapping the probe. Because I mean, a lot of players will see Medic Marine, and they'll go, oh, that's super unorthodox, that's so weird. And they assume that the only advantage of it is that it can catch the opponent off guard. When in reality, you can play Medic Marine against an opponent who knows it's coming and still do an excellent job of defending. Or, excuse me, of attacking and winning, really. So see, already we're seeing part of the reason why Protoss in theory loves this map is because he's already just going straight for that fast expansion. This is kind of a cute way to fast expand. It's a gateway before a Nexus. I mean, a lot of players, when they'll early expand, there's really two variants that you see Protoss players do against Terran. There's the one gateway into Dragoons, then to really fast expansion. Traditionally, you'll get range when you do that. Or they just go Nexus on 14. But again, on Nemesis, let's take a look at the map again. Let's pretend. Let's not say what we've seen and what we haven't seen. Let's just talk about what's good and bad of what we're seeing. If we go one gateway, we can put a lot of pressure on with a Zealot early on, because look at how close these mains are. This is a very small map. And by small, I mean that the walk distances between places is relatively short. I mean, it's pretty much straight lines anywhere you want to go. So if we just go one gateway and then we make a Zealot, we can put pressure on our Terran opponent. And we can get the expansion up relatively fast anyways. I'm still not so sure I'm that convinced it's a good play. Just because on this map, Terran players are going to wall in often anyways. Oh, getting shut down. Baiting in the probe. Oh, there's an Elra. Kangmin. So yeah, I mean, this is, I would say, a creative way to early expand. There are maps, probably maps nowadays where I actually don't really mind doing some sort of one gateway, then expand, then getting a cybernetics core. You'll end up getting, you know, maybe one, maybe two zealots out to do harassment, or if you see, you know, a contain going on, you know, or if you see like him walling himself in, sort of already locked in that base, you can just cancel the zealot and get the core right away. Kind of gives the opportunity for pressure. So already we're starting to see some nutty stuff go on by Upmagic, right? He's getting the engineering bay very, very early. He is getting the academy very early. He made the bunker cancel it. Probably just saw enough of his opponent that he was like, yeah, I'm going to be fine. I don't know if we see the engineering bay researching yet. Yeah, there we go. Now it's researching. So what you should be thinking right now is not, oh, Medic Marine, that's really surprising. Hey, look, it's Super Daniel Man, who now works in insurance. That's fantastic. Always a noble pursuit to work in insurance after pro gaming. Let's get back to the game. We'll stop looking at Reach. Who's a serious man? Everyone loves Reach. So, I mean, already we're starting to see some weird stuff, right? Let's think about Upmagic's play. He is getting a +1 upgrade already, very early, which to me would probably mean that when he pushes out, he'll be 1-1. Very, very fast upgrades. And then he's going to go ahead and expand immediately to his back door. Now, what makes this good? Well, we saw the Academy come out. Well, actually, let's pause. What makes this bad? What's our concern? A reasonable concern is to say, well, aren't we going to die to early Dragoon harassment? Aren't we going to die to Reaver harassment? There's a lot of that early stuff that a tank really helps with. And how is this thing that Upmagic's doing okay? Well, let's think about it. With Reaver harass, pretty straightforward on this map. We can just build turrets in key locations and sort of have a nice little, wall off in our base. I mean, obviously, with the way that this map's structured, if we just look over at the main screen, we can put a turret right here, and even though we might be able to sneak a shuttle in, we can still put another turret right here. And then we can have another turret here and one here, and we probably only need really 4 turrets to just lock in our entire base. The second thing to think about is, what about that early Dragoon harass? That's probably the biggest thing that I would worry about. We already saw the Academy come out so early. For Upmagic, he might just be getting a range upgrade very early. Range before stim. Because if you just have a bunker with a bunch of Marines with range in it, you're going to be able to defend your ramp. And already we have satisfied all the stuff that early tank would get for us. So in essence, what we're doing is we're spending all our gas, instead of a factory early on the upgrade for the at the engineering bay. And then we're also spending our next gas probably on range. Maybe stim, but I would imagine range as a better substitute, so that way we can defend ourselves early on. Hey, cool. We're starting to think of Medic Marine in terms of how to solve our problems, how to stay alive and deal with any sort of pressure early on. We're not thinking it as some sort of big surprise that we're going to come out with and just pray that it works properly. And of course, Nalra doing everything very standardly, getting the second gateway. We see the range spinning already at the cybernetics core. You might not be able to because, it's somewhat low quality, but hey, I get to see it. And that's all that really matters, because I do this show for myself. Wow. So yeah, here come the Marines, kind of checking stuff out. Yeah, look at that early upgrade coming out. Again, I'm pretty sure that's going to be range, because really, what's the purpose of getting Marines with stim? If you just have 3 or 4 of them. Get in there, guys. And now, if you get the range upgrade, you're going to be able to shoot down this Dragoon. And see, you're already feeling, pretty comfortable as Nalra. Honestly, if I'm Nalra, what I'm thinking is that my opponent walled in, got a bunker with Marines, and then straight off the bat went for an expansion at the back of his base, which is almost what Upmagic did. He got the engineering bay, the Academy, and then he's getting the expansion at the back. So this is something that you probably encounter in practice, right? This is something that, as Upmagic, oh yeah, look, there's the range upgrade. This is something in practice that you'd be dealing with, and you'd think, man, how do I deal with this? I want to go Medic Marine. I want to get the back of my my base secured with an expansion. I want to get this early upgrade. I want to get so I can move out when I'm +1/+1. But how do I deal with this? Oh, sweet, I just get an early range upgrade, because I'm going to need to get the range anyways. And look at that. Now we've held off this early pressure. Hey, that's pretty sweet. See, we're thinking about Medic Marine as a legitimate strategy. We're not thinking of it as some sort of cheesy BS. I'm going to turn up the volume just a little bit so you can really hear the trembling bass of those Marines with their range upgrade. Oh yeah, so manly. Ah! I don't know why the observers are screaming. I mean, you'll always get a robotics facility against Terran. It's those funny little, OGN commentators just trying to pump the action up oh so much. And the expansion, continuing to pump away. Now, this is something I find pretty interesting, is that Upmagic is going for more Medic Marine. A lot of times you'll see players open up, they'll expand, they might be getting upgrades, they might be getting the Academy upgrades already, but they'll almost always get a bunch of tanks and then add on a bunch more barracks and do stuff. They don't do what what Upmagic's doing, which is to get these extra engineering bays, these extra barracks early, so they can make a whole bunch of Medic Marine. Yeah, this is very atypical. No factory yet for Upmagic. Why are we getting 4 medics first without any units? Because we want to have the medics have as much energy as possible when we move out. Always a nice little thing to think about. A lot of times you'll see Terran players screw this up against Zerg. They'll get both their fire bats early, when there's really no fear of Zerglings running in and crushing them, and then they'll get the medics, and when you ask them, why did you get fire bats before your medics? They'll say, well, I don't know, I just got them. Why would I get the medics earlier? And then you say, so you can get more energy. And they go, And they say, very clever, Mr. Day 9. And then you get all, get all red-cheeked because you feel like you're a knowledgeable StarCraft player and you've helped another nerd, unleash the pain on another nerd. Doing a little crosseroo over. Now, this is an uncomfortable position to be in as Protoss. Yeah, Nalra selecting lots of stuff. Alright, yeah, lots of APM. This is an uncomfortable position to be in. You're noticing that we have some Dragoons positioned here. Let's bring up the map so we can see a little more clear. We got Dragoons here. We got some Dragoons here. Expanding up here. It's weird because you see this range upgrade, but you really haven't seen anything else. You don't know if there's a bunch of tanks that are going to be pushing out. You do need to be worried about drop ships and that sort of thing. And that's what I really love about watching Nalra play right here, is that, again, let's not assume what we see a lot, what we don't see a lot. Let's just think about what the possibilities that the race can do that would be threatening. On this map, a medic marine drop early on would be very, very threatening, because if we look at the back of our base here, if we look right here, a medic marine drop right here can drop right at the ramp and kill most of our probes really, really, really quickly. So that's something that we do need to be aware of. Or even any sort of early vulture drop. Really anything that we don't know about, because we can't see, we have to worry about. So that's why we see Nalra just positioning things pretty intelligently, right? If we look back over at the main screen, we have a nice little concave here, which is going to make it pretty difficult for any push to really do a ton of damage. We already have units being positioned here to deal with the drop, and then we're going to go for Reavers, not just so we can do damage, and not just because it will help us hold off pushes, but, a shuttle will help us scout. And here's a Medic Marine push coming out. Uh-oh. So we can't actually see the upgrades on the Medic Marine, but they're almost certainly 1-1. Or, excuse me, 1-0. Hopefully they'll select some of those Medic Marine. Select the Medic Marine, select the Medic Marine. Now let's also think, again, from the Terran's point of view. Not whether we see this a lot or whether we don't see this a lot. Let's think about what's just good about this as just the properties of what the races can do. Nalra, who early expanded, is only just now about to get a Reaver, and cannot get a Reaver any sooner. That's why this push of Medic Marine is so strong. And this is not a super thin timing. This is not something unusual, the fact that Upmagic's able to do this push against Protoss. Anytime Protoss early expands and goes to Gateway, and then tries to get a Reaver relatively quickly, this window will exist. And look at him, pushing them all the way back. And remember, right before the cast I was saying, if our opponent goes Medic Marine, it's going to be a little bit hard to secure a third. And that's partly because of this timing window. Generally speaking, Terran players will be getting all those factories early on, maybe 1-2 factories. And they won't move out with Medic Marine pure early on. They'll maybe wait an extra minute, move out with 3 or 4 tanks, and then a slightly smaller Medic Marine group. But still, same idea applies. Early pressure with the Medic Marine right in this little window kind of prevents our opponent from getting an expansion. So Nalra's doing the correct response, which is to get gateways back in his main. And here's the Reaver coming out. Oh man, look at decimating it. Okay, cool. This is the part where most Terran players just straight up lose. And most Terran players dismiss Medic Marine as a completely BS unorthodox strategy that has no validity whatsoever. And that's what makes this game so unbelievably kick-ass, is that Upmagic continues to go Medic Marine with great effectiveness. Look at this. So he's going to be moving back and forth with these Medic Marines. See, he runs up. He has a very nice big spread. Look at that Reaver shot. Only kills 1 Marine right there. Still doing a bunch of damage. Then he's going to fall back. And look at this. 4 barracks already. Only just now getting the factory. Just now getting the starport. Oh no, Super Daniel man. Feeling scared. Needing to shave. And see, this is good. Looks, he's spreading these Marines out. Because again, we don't think, oh, Reavers just kill Marines a lot. You can move the Marines forward and glitch these Reavers. Sometimes what's fun to do is to have 1 Marine that's really close to 3 of them. Kind of have like 1 Marine, 1 Marine, 1 Marine, and then have 1 guy in the center. Because he's going to target that. And then you'll just pull that guy back. Like right at the time he's going to shoot, you just start moving it, and a lot of times you'll just see it follow that one right away. That's actually a very common technique that I saw Jongbi do beautifully in a lot of games on Othello in his Protoss vs. Protosses. He'd have 1 Dragoon just baiting at one of the leading edges of his little concave. So you know that his opponent would be targeting that, and he would just move it back just at the right time, and all those dragoons that were targeting Zhangbi's weak dragoon would suddenly glitch because that dragoon suddenly popped back. So in a sense, you kind of think one step ahead. You know, level 0 thinking is, I'm going to run forward with a Marine to try to get him to shoot this one. And then, you know, level 1 thinking, one step past that, is just to go, hey, I know what he's going to target, so I'm going to pull that back at the last second. Extra little cute thing to do. So, killing off the Reaver, very good. And part of the reason why this is working so well on this map is because of that super, super, super thin ramp. That's going to help so much. The fact that, oops, let me move this big orange ball off. That's going to help so much because we know the Protoss eventually wants to push up that thin little ramp. And to be honest, we've already pretty much denied a third. I mean, Upmagic doing a really good job of scouting there. Oh, the Hidden Expo. Oh. That's kind of cute, but I'm going to ignore that for now. But Upmagic's doing an incredibly good job of keeping an eye on this top right expansion. That's part of the reason why Upmagic's so comfortable being passive in this situation. He knows that since there's no expansion at the top right, he knows that since there's no expansion really anywhere on this map, that the Protoss must be making more gateways in his base. Therefore, Terran can comfortably sit back and wait till he has an adequate army size. And also notice these Marines are 1-1. Very fast 1-1 Marines. Super fast. And it's kind of funny because this is almost looking like an old school Terran versus Zerg. You know, the 4 barracks, 2 factory, slightly later starport with science vessel. And look, just sort of poking his head down here. We're going to see some unbelievable moves against these Reavers. I'm going to rewind probably a couple times so we can really see this to its fullest. And this looks real awesome. Oh man, that was unintentional, but that's got to be the best pause I have ever done. Look at that guy, man. That guy is such a hero. It's, just like, oh, he's into it, man. Reaver. Man, someone needs to Photoshop my face onto that. That's just the best thing in the world. Yeah, this guy. Alright, totally lost my train of thought. Sweet. We have a bunch of Dragoons positioned here. Where do we put the Reavers? Down here. That was the perfect place for the Reavers to be at, because things are going to be in a line, and then they're going to kind of try to move forward like this. So if we have our Dragoons here, what happens? The Dragoons clamp down, and it forces things to cluster right here, which means the Reavers that are there are going to do maximum damage. A lot of people don't think about little subtle things like that with the Reavers, but you should, you know, and it just takes a few extra seconds of thought. I mean, really, how would you come up with that on this map? You would say, well, I'm going to be containing with Dragoons very often here. In my build, I have Reavers, so how can I position my Dragoons and Reavers optimally? Well, if I had a line like this, do I want the Reavers here, or do I want them here? Here seems better because I'll probably get a cluster there. There you go. Boom. 4 seconds of logic gave us optimal positioning, and we just did a ton of damage here. And this is the first blunder that Nalra made. I mean, that is pretty clearly terrible. I mean, that's just like 3 units. You know, getting a little bit aggro. And you know, I actually kind of like this expansion right here. Because really, if our opponent goes to kill it off, we can always use some counters with the Medic Marine. What we mainly need with the Medic Marine is to get good positioning out in the middle of the map. Oh, that guy. Oh man, old KTF coach. Yeah, look at this, Medic Marine drop. Seriously, it looks like Terran vs. Zerg. And why is this a good time to do a Medic Marine grop? Grop. Why is gropping good here? I love combining my words together. It's a good drop. It's a grop, right? Why is gropping good? Because our opponent just lost his shuttle with his Reaver in it. And look at Nalra, target firing the dropship. Oh my god, that's seriously hyper pro. Yeah, and look, these guys are going to do quite a bit of damage. Kind of nice that the forge is there, so we can maybe end up taking it out a little bit sooner. Running back, pull the units into a location where we can shoot at it. Real standard stuff, but still, pretty good. And look how many Dragoons have to be pulled back there. Because medics heal pretty quickly. And look, with all those Dragoons being pulled back, opportune time to move on out. Very simple tactic. Dropping in the back to not only do a lot of damage, but to pull our opponent away. Therefore, I have the opportunity to push out. And look, with this Medic Marine drop, we could also have the opportunity to expand here. I'm not so sure if I think that now is the best time, but in the future, just to think about Medic Marine drops, as, just bring 6 medic marine, or 6 marines, 1 medic, and then an SCV, and just drop it and start expanding. And then continue to produce the dropships, because again, if we have 1 dropship full of medic marine, we can reinforce that island pretty quickly, a lot faster than Protoss can actually put pressure on it. So look at this, still being aggressive with just medic marine. Now this was one of the most amazing moves. We're going to see Upmagic do this maybe twice, at the very least once, where he's going to actually press stop on these tanks and wait for the Reaver to unload, and then he's going to target fire the tanks. Yeah, look at that beautiful target firing. This is so cool. So, I mean, a lot of Protosses will be like, yeah, the tanks will shoot, and then, I'll unload the Reaver and get some shots off. So see, look, right when the Reaver unloads, deflam! Deflickety flam pow! In the face. So that's great. Do a little bit of smashing action. Because that's really, I would say, is the key observation about Medic Marine versus Protoss. If you take out the Reavers, or take out the Templar, you're pretty much completely demolishing your opponent. I mean, really doing some serious damage. And look, once again, a drop in the back is going to draw our opponent away from the front. Whoopsie daisies. And then, of course, I have to compliment Nalra on this. He's getting prepared for a drop, and he has Dark Templar in here, and he has the rest of his army there. These Dark Templar are an excellent tool. This drop's awesome. Uh-oh. Reaver in the back. And this is when this game kind of starts to get crazy. Let's think about these two things independently. First of all, we have the drop in the back, getting a whole bunch of stuff, not just killing stuff back here, but also drawing Protoss up here. And once we get a contain here with tanks and Medic Marine, it is impossible for Protoss really to end up coming down here. So, I mean, think about this for a moment. If I'm Protoss, and I'm against a player who's going Medic Marine, probably not going to be getting Arbiters anytime soon. I need to get Reavers, I need to get High Templar with Storm. That's where most of my gas is going. And I need quite a few Gateway units. So really, not that many Arbiters coming anytime soon. If I was going Mech, and I was containing my opponent, there's a strong chance that I could be up against Arbiters, because my Protoss opponent can defend with just Dragoons and Zealots and can stockpile that gas for the Arbiters. So in a sense, this contain with tanks and Medic Marine is much stronger because we know the limitations of anti-Medic Marine play for Protoss, namely no Arbiters. So this contain is super strong. Now we're starting to see some more cool stuff that Medic Marine can do thanks to this map. So again, to get that contain set up, we did 2 drops back here, pulled some units back, that's when we first push, and then we did another drop, and that's when we're really sort of closing in on the contain. So let's think about this from Nalra's perspective. He needs to make sure he doesn't get contained. So he's sending Dark Templar here and doing a drop back here. So that way, maybe the Dark Templar will kill off some stuff and repel it, and maybe these guys can come back down the ramp again. But this drop in the back almost certainly should do the trick. Oh, kill in the back. So this is why Upmagic is a huge ballsy baller. The fact that he's just going for it, man. He's just gunning up here. And again, a contain is very strong against Protoss if you have Medic Marine. But a push up here is also really strong if you can kill off enough Reavers and stuff. We already see this Reaver, I believe, fell. Because we can get this nice little cup placement there. Kind of a little bit low. Oh, no, he didn't get the Reaver. I take it back. But it'd kill off this Expo. More Medic Marine just flooding out. And that's one thing that's pretty cool about Medic Marine is that reinforcing is really strong. I mean, if you just get another 8 Marines into the battle, that's a pretty big upswing for the Terran. Still going Medic Marine, still pushing forward with the tankers. And this is going to pose a problem. This is a pain in the butt. And look at this. Landing up at the top side. Oh, we killed off the Reaver. I don't remember that happening. So now at this point, I think the advantage is pretty clearly skewed towards the Upmagic direction. I don't think there's anything wrong with pulling back and containing here and then going to kill off these expansions. That's actually probably the more modern way to deal with problems, is that you contain your opponent, and then you send, you know, some tanks and vultures to slowly eliminate all the other expansions while expanding more yourself and bolstering the contain. But Upmagic, no way. He's a little bit too manly for that. He's probably one of the more hair on his chest than your average pro gamer. He wants to do this sort of stuff. He wants to get the blood involved. I mean, let's just look at this. Just for the pure visceral appeal of explosions. Because, I mean, let's be honest. Most of us are adolescent males watching this right now. Oh, yeah, explosions. Blood. Nice. Cool. But in a more logical, you know, let's try to win this game sense, you don't need to have done that. You don't really need to push into the Protoss main and try to kill him off right away like that. Getting a contain up there probably would have been almost, you know, airtight. These are the two people playing. Fantastic. I mean, really, I don't quite see the merit of trying to push in there and end it right then. I really find a lot more utility in killing off that right expansion. Oh, by the way, sorry, I forgot to do this. Right now we are watching Nal-Ra vs. Upmagic. I meant to write that in the chat. Upmagic vs. Nal-Ra on Nemesis. I forgot the underscore in Nal-Ra's names. That really makes me look like a disgusting, dripping newbie, but no big deal. I like looking like a scrub every now and again. And some nice good old harass. So here as Protoss, now I'm feeling fantastic as Protoss. I'm just like, oh, no problem, I've won this. Easy. And look at this great spread. Look at that. That was incredible. Only lost 4 Medic Marine to that Reaver. And still doing some more drop. And what's the tactic we're almost certain to see? What's the theme that we've seen? Drop followed by pushing out. Would not be surprised in the slightest if we saw some sort of movement out the front from Upmagic. Ooh, a little tricky harass. Yeah, look at this. Look at him, like clockwork. We're starting to think of some more tactics if we want to go Medic Marine as Protoss. Science Vessel, which is the cheat. You know, I actually I want to stop and just tell a funny story. So, you know, I think many of you know of my legendary historic friend Dane, who I play the BGH games with, and you know, Dane, he's never really played competitively. He's only ever really played BGH games for fun with me. I mean, he's played on low money maps before, but you know, he only does it with, you know, me and some other friends and stuff. So it's always very casual. So this guy challenges him, right? This guy's like, "You suck, you hack," right? Because Dane had like 5 control groups of scouts and just, you know, 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A, and he's like, "You have a multi-command hack, you have a multi-build unit hack," and Dane and I are like, "What's a multi-build unit hack?" You know. Anyway, so he challenges Dane, and Dane, as usual, gets some engineering bays early on, and the guy tries to do a Dark Templar drop, and Dane, you know, has the engineering bays and repels it, and then Dane gets a Science Vessel, because this guy's still making Dark Templar, and pushes out, and ends up, you know, winning, and the guy's like, "Dude, you have to be hacking." Not like in an accusatory way, but in sort of this dejected, miserable, disappointed way. He's like, "Dude, you gotta be hacking, Dane. You have to be hacking." And Dane's like, "What? How?" And the guy says, "You got detection, man. All Terrans always forget detection. How did you know I was getting Dark Templar?" So, I was just like, oh, yeah, oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I guess you were hacking, Dane. Good point. So that's what's just so funny about this sort of thing is that, you know, the observers, I don't know if you heard it properly, but when that Science Vessel came out, they were just like, "Ah!" And I was just like, oh, there's Upmagic hacking again, because he remembered detection, which Terran players never do. Here's a Medic Marine drop doing some more fancy stuff. And this, I think, is really good by Nal-Ra. I mean, just think of the general sort of push and pull you're dealing with because it's against a Medic Marine player. This Medic Marine player drops and pushes out at the same time. It draws the Protoss army into unfavorable positions. So Protoss is going to try to counteract that by having Dark Templar not just pick off stuff that are in the center of the map, but also do these counter Reaver drops to draw Terran units back into an unfavorable position. Or, I guess I want to say, to draw the Terran units back so that the Protoss units are in a more favorable position. Because really it's the Terran is the one who's trying to draw the Protoss out. Or draw the Protoss back. And look at this. Oh, that little hacker, he got a Science Vessel. That's unfair. He can see the Dark Templar. Oh, got some nice little fuzz going on there from Super Dango Man. He's hence gotten clean shaven now that he sells insurance. Oh, and getting stuff mined out. Uh-oh. Continuing to put a ton of pressure here. Now this, I find interesting with my knowledge of what are common techniques now. A lot of players just don't do these straight pushes for the main anymore. much more often they will contain the main and push for the expansions. I mentioned that once before, but still, this is so interesting for me to see, because, you know, the Protoss main is mined out right now. We could contain here and just kill off the right expansion, and part of me wonders if there's some reason that Upmagic doesn't, or that Upmagic knows about that I don't. Perhaps in practice he did try to do that, but his Medic Marine was so much weaker once it got all spread out. Which could be the case. I might just be talking out my ass. But, you know, I always want to try to think of reasons why players aren't doing anything. You know, actually I'm going to continue on that point. Anytime you see someone doing something that you don't do, try to justify it. Don't try to say, oh, that sucks, that's horrible. Because that's actually what 95% of players do. You know, some player will be like, hey, what about Hydrolurk against Terran? And people will be like, people don't do that anymore. Everyone goes for Defilers. You're an idiot if you go for Hydrolurk. And that's not really constructive. Because honestly, 90% of the time the person saying that has never gone Hydrolurk against Terran in their lives. So they don't think about it. And it can be a very useful exercise to try really hard to argue for some strategy that not only you've never done, but that you might not actually believe in. Because remember, there is no use in being right in conversation with someone about StarCraft. All that matters is being right in the game. If I get on a StarCraft forum and I convince a ton of people that I know what I'm talking about, it doesn't mean anything. The only thing that matters is being able to log on and snap some nerds' necks. And that's what I want you guys to do, is to be able to treat the nerds' neck like baby carrots. Just pop them real easily. Nothing too stressful about it, right? So that's what we want to do. Try as hard as you can to argue for your opponent. You'll probably see me do that a ton when I'm watching these games, just as useful thought exercises. So maybe I'm thinking right here that when Terran's going Medic Marine, that the strength of the army gets much, much higher. Whoopsie daisies. Gets much, much higher if you can remain as one solid glob. That you get significantly, significantly weaker if you try to spread out too much. And hopefully you just heard me crack my neck right there. Oh, Sonic Stormer. Probably killed a little bit more than necessary. But this is so kick-ass. Look at this. The Science Vessel here makes for an extremely mobile, ultra-fast push. And you really do need these sorts of spotters when you're going for Medic Marine. Because not only are you a much faster army, you're a much more mobile army than the traditional sort of Vulture tank push. But also, oh, by the way, it's faster because it relies less on the tanks. That's what makes the normal tank Vulture pushes so slow, is that you really need to get those tanks in ideal positions, whereas Medic Marine you can kind of dart around all over the place, because the Medic Marine do quite a lot of just muscle damage themselves. And now we have an unbelievably interesting game on our hands. The way I think that Upmagic could have avoided this was just by making an extra turret here, here, and here. He did a good job of defending his bottom side from drops, but not so much his top side, which is what allowed pretty much all this that we're seeing in Upmagic's base to happen. It's avoidable, though. I don't think that there's any reason that this should happen, you know, a majority of the time. And there's the Reaver. Look at the 22 kill Reaver. It might even be 32. I can't quite tell. So Nalra, you know, he's he's gonna go ahead and 12 Nexus again. You guys ever play that sort of game where, like, you end up trading bases and you, like, 9-pool twice in one game? Oh, those are the best. I always giggle when I start to do that again. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna 12 hatch again. Didn't go so well the first time, but, you know, third time's a charm. Let's see if we can pull it off again. And this, I think, is one of the absolute best aspects of Medic Marine, is that once you get back to really small numbers, Medic Marine become way better than anything that Protoss has. Medic Marine in small numbers crush almost any other unit composition in small numbers. I mean, really, really, truly, honestly, Medic Marine are incredibly, incredibly strong in small numbers. So I love this. I love the fact that he's landing on the island. He can defend up there with, again, small groups of Medic Marine. Because one shuttle worth of units at this stage is going to be like a Reaver plus something else. 6-7 Medic Marine can just spread out, kill off the Reaver real fast. And it's not going to be too big a deal. And if any of you say, you can kill off a Reaver real fast with 6 Marines, the answer is, indeedy do you can. Go practice it. It's actually super, incredibly, outrageously fun. And look at this. Only 5 Medic Marine going to kill those Templars. So smart. And some fancy schmancy storms. No. Everyone getting excited. Look how smart Upmagic's being. Using small Medic Marine groups when he's up against Templar. So genius. I love it. There's a Templar, sort of wiggling around. Probably going to want to kill off that that pylon. I don't think there's the biggest need to siege right now. Did I just say niege? You don't need to siege, motherfucker. No, yeah, you don't need to siege, because siege is primarily useful against Dragoons, and since you're pretty much up against Zealot Templar right now, you know, the siege tanks pretty much can be the muscle unit that can take the damage, while the Medic Marine deal the damage. Oops, just unplugged one of my speakers. Hopefully it's coming back right now. Look at this, it's so cool. Look, getting the dropship, getting some EMP. Oh, yes. And pretty much slow, secure death. I mean, when I remember I actually watched this game live, and it's always so much more intense live. You know, you're always just like, oh my god! You know, you don't care what the smart thing to do is, you care what the awesome thing is. And here you're just kind of going, oh my god, I still can't believe Upmagic might actually win. And look at this, unloading with the dropship. Oh, that's so cool. Whoa, is Nalra really going to lose this? Oh my god. You know, when you come back and you actually look at this game, this was going to be pretty hard for Terran to lose at any point past, you know, 8-9 minutes ago. And I'll actually rewind that once we're finished with this replay. Or should I say this YouTube video. I mean, really, pretty secure, stable strategy going on by Upmagic. And you should be calm in this sort of situation. This should be kind of like an eye roll. I'm sure this has happened to a lot of you. We were playing against a player who's really bad, and you have like the whole map, and he does a ton of storm drops and kills off like 90% of your workers. You're in such a huge lead, you kind of go, well, whatever, and you just kind of rebuild your drones, keep defending, and then you just go ahead and kill him. I want all of you to think right now of that situation that you've had, where some hilarious screw-up happens that you don't sweat and you win anyways. This situation might seem more tense than that. It might seem impossible that you could possibly ever, you know, be in this spot as Terran and be comfortable. But really, we're going to rewind, and we're going to think objectively about it, we're going to think calmly about it. And that way, what I want you to do is when you're in a situation like this, I want you to just not worry about it and make sure you have your simple, reasonable guidelines for what the strengths and weaknesses of your play are. And as long as you're abiding by that, you'll see that it's going to be pretty difficult to, you know, screw up in spots like this. Trying to get some Templar out because Templar are the imbalanced unit for Protoss. Tanks are the imbalanced unit for Terran. Defilers are the imbalanced unit for Zerg. It's important that no matter what race you are playing, that you know how properly to whine whenever you lose. So I just want to give a little bit of insight into that. On the defensive matrix, beautiful D-matrices going off there. And here is the good game inevitably coming up. I mean, even though Templar will give you a good opportunity to defend here, no opportunity for Protoss to put any pressure on that top or bottom expo. Yeah, killing off our opponent, doing the damage. Uh-oh. Nalra still looking in that sort of half-smilish, semi-disappointed state. Oh yeah, that's why you need to spread your Medic Marine out just a touch. Just a nib. And here comes the GG. I think he EMPs that. That would be hilarious if he did. And clean up. I don't want to fast forward because for some reason I feel like there's something more noteworthy happening. Maybe it's one probe microing against some Marines. I guess not. I guess that doesn't happen. So, and there's the good game. Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and unmute the chat really fast so that way we can review this portion of the game real fast while we let some questions flood in. So I mean, up to right about here, I would say. Protoss is in a really tough position. Protoss is in a tough spot. Look at this huge push coming. He's already had all the units in his main drawn back because of that drop at the bottom right. And at this point, the death of this Protoss main is almost inevitable. Something that I just thought about now, but didn't really think too much about when I was commenting first over this, is the fact that if we kill off our opponent's main, he's not going to have any drops, so he won't be able to kill off these mains. Or excuse me, these island expansions at the top and bottom. And there goes the Reaver. See you later, Reaver. So here comes the slow death of this main. And at this point, if you think about it, no matter what Terran does, as long as Terran gets this top base running and this bottom base running, it means that Protoss will be pretty much inevitably on the defensive for the remainder of the game. And won't really be able to put any pressure on the top and bottom. I mean, look at this. We have some good micro going on here. This is 18 minutes into this YouTube video. Things are continuing to evaporate. There's some more defense. I mean, and as we keep going now, we're 22 minutes into this video. This is just a nice, slow, secure, solid death of the Protoss players. Still moving forward, this is now 24 minutes into the YouTube video. Very, very solid play by Upmagic. And I just love this so much because, I mean, Nal Ra's going, you know, Mass, Dragoon, Zealot, Reaver, Templar. I mean, that is as counter-ish as you get to Medic Marine, and Upmagic still just plays solidly and pulls it off well. There was some excellent snipes of tanks going on there. Those are some amazing things to do as well. There's all these little tiny things that I think helped Upmagic a lot in the mid-game. In the early game, we saw him get those upgrades very quickly, which is going to help a lot against Dragoons, because normally it's 4 Dragoon shots to kill a Marine, and then when you stim, it's like 3, but now we've upped the shot count on the Dragoons now that we have the armor upgrade. And obviously attack, you're going to do way more damage with the Medic Marine, because they shoot like a bazillion times a second. They do like 20 badrillion damage. So I'm going to go ahead and mute the chat and take some questions. So Lexpar says, why haven't I ever seen Medic Marine in Terran vs. Protoss in my life? It seemed so strong in today's game. So there's a strategy called Deep Six, which I hate. I absolutely despise the name for Deep Six, because it honestly sounds like Warner Brothers is trying to sponsor people going Medic Marines. They want to think of a fancy name, you know, put some sharks in there somewhere. Get you know, let's get Megan Fox in on the Deep Six, so that way people start going Medic Marine more. To be frank, a lot of the reason I think that Medic Marine is seen less commonly is it's one of those things that's, you know, tough to practice. There's not much prior art, you know, there's very few reference games that you can look at and go, oh, cool, I kind of get it. I mean, let's think about traditional Terran vs. Protoss. We see players doing all sorts of pushes of various timings. I mean, really, if I wanted to hop on today and I wanted to start playing Terran vs. Protoss with mid-game pushes, I can look at a lot of High-Oz games, I can look at Firebat Heroes' recent games, I can look at some of Light's more old-school games from the 2005-2006 era, I can look at Upmagic's games against Pusan on Longinus. I have all these games in my head of mid-game pushes that I can imitate, and there's not really that much to imitate here. And what's something that I think is really interesting to follow is every time, and this is kind of hard to do unless you're someone like me who watches, you know, a badrillion games. I watch all of them. You'll see that there are very few Zerg players who do their own stuff first. Zero, for instance, does a lot of his own builds first. He's the sort of player who you see him do something that I have never seen anyone do before. Jadong's also like that. July is also like that. Calm has also done things like that. A lot of the A level, not the S class level, but the A level Zergs, like Quanro. Quanro, I actually think his strongest matchup is against Terran, but I've never seen him done something unique. I'm kind of getting long-winded on this, but part of the reason I don't think that we've seen Medic Marine in your lifetime, Lexpar, is because players just don't want to practice it, I think is the biggest reason for it. Also, I'm trying to think if the maps would be nice for it. I mean, for instance, what's nice about Nemesis is that you can take your expansion, put guys at your choke, and then you're secure. You're fine. You've held it off. No big deal. You're fine. On other maps, like, I mean, if I'm just thinking of, like, Fighting Spirit, a Dragoon Reaver push at my front could just, like, kill me straight up. I would just be dead instantly. Maybe God's Garden would be a reasonable game to try to pull something like that off. Andromeda I like as a map to pull that sort of thing off, because you can turtle so well and so easily, and you can really contain your opponent very well. So I would say that part of it is the maps, but primarily players just don't want to practice it. And if you want to practice it, you should, by all means. So Kaz says, Kaz says, it seems to me that the biggest threat Upmagic's build faces in the early game is versus Dragoon pressure. On a more standard map, the natural out in the front, how can you fast expand and still avoid getting crushed? Well, what I would say is that here we saw the Academy, we saw the Engineering Bay, I think, begin researching before the Academy. You can just rush to get the Academy, because think of, let's take Flash against Stork on Heartbreak Ridge. Stork took Flash's gas early, so Flash early expanded, took the gas at his natural, built a bunker with some Marines, and then got the tank. And then he had to repair the bunker for a really long time, and then he got the tank out. I believe that a bunker that has Marines with range in it has equal range to a Dragoon that has the range upgrade. So for instance, instead of getting your gas to get a tank, you could use your gas to get very fast +1 range upgrade. So that's the way I would probably deal with that. I just love that opening by Upmagic because it's not the deep six thing that we see, you know, where players early expand, get a bunch of tanks, then make 6 barracks, and then push at this really key timing. Instead, it was just, I am going Medic Marine, and I'm making them really strong from the get-go, which is, if you're doing one of those unorthodox builds, that's probably the most important thing to assume. It's just that my opponent should know that I'm doing this, so how do I just make it as strong as possible? Not how do I make it as tricky as possible. So, So Fodge says, is going Medic Marine versus Protoss viable on any map other than certain ones like Nemesis? Also, are there any advantages to going Medic Marine over Mech versus Terran? So honestly, let me answer the second one. I just don't think that Medic Marine versus Terran is really viable because tanks just do so much. Tank Vulture is just killing you. Part of the reason why you can't Part of the reason why Medic Marine works well against Protoss is that Medic Marine is good against the staple units. It's good against the Dragoons and the Zealots, but it's weaker against the support units of the Reaver and Templar variety. Whereas, you know, Terran's staple units are tanks and vultures, which just kill the shit out of them. I would be interested to see if anyone could pull off Medic Marine against Terran properly. The only time I've ever seen it done in a wonderfully beautiful fashion is Sea Shield against Boxer on 8/15 in the NBC versus SKT Pro League match. I think it was the Pro League Finals or like the Round 1 Finals or something like that. Marvelous use of Medic Marine just to draw tank fire. So on other maps, I think I've already discussed the maps a little bit, but basically it seems harder if we can't get a good containment on Protoss and we can't push him back properly. Let's see. So, Liaj says, since the game switched to Zealot High Templar, could some Fire Bats have been more effective? Fire Bats are good versus Zealots, but really, if you have the tanks to absorb the damage from the Zealots and you just put the Medic Marine in back, you're going to rip through the Zealots really, really quickly. In small numbers, I think the Fire Bats are very useful, especially if your opponent has a few more Zealots than you were expecting. But really, don't feel forced to make Fire Bats too late into the game, because really, if your opponent has like any Dragoons, the Fire Bats are going to die real fast anyways. So let us divine. What are some more questions that we can take? So let's see. Noob says, I don't get why Nalra retreated with his Dragoons in the beginning. With Decent Micro, he could have owned those early Medic Marine. I think with Decent Micro, you can own early Medic Marine because they generally don't have the range upgrade. I think Nalra already had, I think it was right here when this first push happened. Yeah. I mean, this many Medic Marine is going to do significant damage to these Dragoons. I mean, we're already seeing the Dragoons fall very quickly, and a lot of it is because of the range upgrade early on. These Dragoons are trying to join back with these ones in the back. I assume this is what Noobs is referring to. But really, even with this spread, maybe could have done a little bit of damage, but you gotta be really careful. I mean, look how fast these Dragoons are dying. And plus, these Marines also have some upgrade. I can't tell if it's armor or attack, but definitely with that early engineering bay and the early range, that's going to, help so much. So let's see. It looks like I'm getting a lot of the same questions, so I'm going to pass through here. Yeah, here's a great question. Going Marine tank versus going Vulture tank. Do people go mech because it's easier? Just talk about the comparisons between the two. So what I would say is something to think about with the Medic Marine tank is I actually think it does a lot more damage and it's a lot more mobile than the usual sort of tank Vulture. It's a lot flimsier. You have to have very, very specific control. And if your opponent can pierce in and do some serious damage here and there, you can end up losing real easily. So when you're playing optimally, what'll happen is you'll be doing a ton of damage, and then 1 or 2 Reaver shots will get off, kill a big chunk of your army, and then by then you should have killed the Reaver, and that's how you sort of even the score up a little bit. So what I would say is that Medic Marine is a lot more mobile, you can be a lot more fluid with it, you can be a lot more aggressive in certain circumstances. What I like about the sort of tank Vulture is it's a lot better at holding positions and defending. Your Vultures are actually pretty awesome in terms of mobility. You can really dart all over the place. So let me actually rephrase that. The Vultures are the most mobile unit in the game. You can get all over the place very quickly. But in terms of pushing, I think that Tank Marine can move much more quickly than Tank Vulture. So in terms of the big push, that's what's very nice about it, is that you can get your Doom Ball to move around very quickly. Also, what's nice about going Medic Marine is that you don't have this huge reliance on getting a ton of gas. You can actually just, push out pretty quickly on... if you time it right, you can have just like 1.2 gas geysers. You only need the second one mining a little bit. And then you can actually start stockpiling the gas and do other things with it. You get the science vessels out. So that's one thing, another nice thing about getting Medic Marine, is that you can get the science vessel pretty easily into your build, whereas if you were going mech, it's a little bit harder to work it in unless you have a lot of gas geysers. On low resource, you can get the science vessels a lot easier. I just like biomech. I think it's pretty awesome. Let's just go ahead and take one more question, just sort of wrap things up for a little bit. Trying to see, there's so many repeat questions, I guess because everyone had questions about the same thing. So I suppose I should just ramble on a little bit more about why Medic Marines totally kick ass. Let us see here. People are asking about, in this era, Protoss went Templar Tech first versus Upmagic's Terran versus Protoss. Why did Nal Ra go for Reaver first? So, I don't know if a lot of Protosses would be correct in going for Reaver first. In going Templar first, because the issue with High Templar is that High Templar really need a lot of support to do damage. Reavers don't need a lot of support to do damage. Reavers are good just as a unit on their own because they can take a lot of punches. So part of the reason why we're going Reaver early on as the Protoss is that we don't really know what our opponent's doing yet. He could be going for early pushes. He could be going for early Medic Marine. He could be going for just standard mech play. I just had some weird range upgrade first. I wouldn't put it past Upmagic. So I think that... oh yeah, by the way, I'm done taking questions. I'm getting like a huge flood. It looks like the Matrix on my screen just flying up with questions. We are done for now. Whoa. So anyways... So you really don't know what your opponent's doing in Nal Ra's position, so getting the Reaver is very good against all of those. Not like it's a good sacrifice and does mediocre against all of them. It's actually really good against all of them. A great example is actually Much versus, I believe that's Dongray was the player he was playing against. It was on Longinus. And Much, just did a usual early expand, went straight for the Reavers, and Terran, who again I believe was Dongray, did a huge Medic Marine push build, like all the hidden barracks, everything normal, and Much just completely demolished. It was not even close, just with Dragoon Reaver. So I think that that's very, very super duper good. So that's, even if you do see your opponent going Medic Marine, I would strongly recommend going for Reaver first, especially if you're kind of low on the gateways. If you can get away with getting like 5-6 gateways total and getting the Templar, that's awesome. But if you're at like 2 gateways, getting the Reavers, I think almost always, like 99 times out of 100, are going to be better than getting the Templar. So you know what? That's the end of the Day 9 Daily, number 58. Again, I want to emphasize to all of you that you can do unorthodox things. Never, ever think of them as a surprise build. Think of it as something you want to make stable. Think of it as what you want to just be good, that you can do every time, that you can say to your opponent, I'm going Medic Marine against you, and this is the build I'm doing, and that he'll still have a hard time holding it off. Just for today and tomorrow and over the weekend, I will be taking more replay submissions for the low-level replay analysis. Again, if it's February and you're watching this on demand, don't send me a replay because it won't be selected. I apologize because I will have already done it. So again, send me the replay. PM me on Team Liquid. My name's Day 9. Say this is for the replay. Then the replay analysis. Then in there, have a link to the replay. You can upload it at battlereports.com. Have the matchup there, your rank and the rank of your opponent on PG Tour, IC Cup. I still always say PG Tour. And then have 3-sentence description of why that should be analyzed. Because you really should be able to sum up a game in a concise way that demonstrates what the key aspects of the game were. If you're getting into too many details, then honestly, if you're getting into a lot of details, then hell, you've already analyzed your build yourself. So you already have holes to plug. And also, if you're going into too much, sometimes you can miss the forest for the trees. Too fine details can occasionally make you forget that if you just make a few broad adjustments, you'll be able to win a lot more easily. So go ahead and send those to me, and that's going to wrap things up. And yeah, see you in the future for more Day 9 Dailies. Ciao!